Hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Chasing the Puck, episode 1. Good luck and don't puck it up. Took me a good few hours to pick that one, but welcome, everyone. Season has started once again. We're back for another fun-filled season in English and the UK ice hockey. So, obviously, it's been a while since we obviously had a hockey season. We ended it with playoff win in Nottingham for the Sheffield Steelers. World Championship for Team GB. Pre-season starts. Cardiff Devils play 76 games for pre-season, and now we've got the Olympic qualifiers that have just took place, and Team GB playing in Denmark, so they'll be heading back home. So, first subject that I've been asked to cover is Steelers versus the Cardiff Devils from the weekend. So, very fortunate to go to the game on Sunday at Ice Sheffield. And probably just throwing it out there, really, before we begin, really, is Tyler's performance, really, for the Cardiff Devils. You know, young lad, 18 years old, and he's a person that was thrown in. You know, Curtis Wilburton was as the deputy for them on the bench. Kindly that Steelers were able to give him on the bench to do the warm-ups and bits and pieces like that. So Tyler knew from straight off that he was playing a full 60 minutes. And just want to go on record, just to say it was a really good performance. Yeah, he let 7 goals in, but, the assuredness and the calmness of him at his age, to watch him for 2 periods where I was just actually really, 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 really good to see. And, he's got a great future ahead of him. Looking at the game itself, let's go back to the game in Cardiff on Saturday. I mean, we all know that Team GB being away, Pete Russell was over in Denmark, and a lot of the Devils players were unable to attend those fixtures due to that reasoning, and being in a position where those guys had to bring in the two-ways, which was, an opportunity for them. When you get something like that coming, it's pre-season, everyone's going to look at it and think, these guys' opportunity to shine, showcase their abilities and stuff like that when they won't in this season. I mean, obviously, we'll go into it in a bit more detail later with the two-way situation that the league has announced. But, these guys got an opportunity on the ice against a team that, pretty much hasn't changed that much from last season's Grand Slam. They're going to play in the CHL. And, it's a really good game. I mean, obviously, the biggest thing that they'll probably be really disappointed about is Cruz's injury. Fingers crossed for them. He's back sooner rather than later. Obviously, because I know people want to throw Twixes at him at some point. So they'll definitely want him back on the ice soon. But obviously, Ben Bounds being back and Tyler's opportunity to go on the ice, the last couple of minutes in Cardiff and then a full game at Ice Sheffield. But, I mean, if you look at Steelers, the way they've recruited this year and the performances they've had so far and the goals that they've done, they're not fully firing at the moment. I mean, Robert Dowd has been with Team GB. Cole Shudder's there as well. They will be introduced back into the group. An interesting one to, obviously, team captain going to meet the players for the first time when they're going abroad for a first CHL game. So that'll be a good opportunity for them to see, and obviously seeing the results they've had. But if you look at the actual scorers on Saturday for Steelers, I mean, you've got Usler, you've got Sorcerman, you've got Cormier. Usler obviously got 2, and then Evans is the new guy that's come in, obviously one of the new players that came in. But to have 4 of your 5 goal scorers from last season come back and score when they come back from. So, I mean, it's an absolute perfect dream, especially, in the situations. A lot of times when someone wins a Grand Slam, it's either the team gets broken up, they get better deals, or their agents can obviously find them a deal and they can use a Grand Slam performance to make a step up with wherever they make the purchases. But credit to the staff at Steelers. They've kept everyone together. I mean, obviously, people made the cliche line of best fans in Europe that has been mentioned, and, brown envelopes and whatnot and bits and pieces like that. But they've got a core group. They know what they're doing, and them being back is actually a testament really good the league is that they have come back, and they've obviously signed 2 years as well. They've brought them back and with a sense of purpose and ready to go. So obviously Sunday, 5-2, Steelers come back, and then they go to Ice Sheffield. Games being Ice Sheffield, of course, you can't get the big performances there that you've got with attendances. You can't get that many people in Ice Sheffield. Should have seen the queue for the food. Literally, it was double barreled, but it's good pie. At the end of the day, I'll queue for a long time for the pie. Ice Sheffield, but that's just personal preference to me. But it's one of those arenas that I've seen games there. I've seen Steel Dogs versus Solway, but obviously this is the second time that I've seen them because I went to see them against Panthers as well, and it was a high scoring game. Really an entertaining game. Again, Devils came to play. They brought their fire, and they were feisty for it, but this is the thing, having those missing players, great having the two ways and that opportunity to come through the type of players that they brought in. But for most part, Steelers just, were clicking. The lucky that they had the Steel Dog two-way players to come in on the fourth line. But when you look at the scorers again, you've got Simpson, you've got Cormier, you've got Usley, you've got Ciampini, you've got Cormier again, you've got Watling, you've got Campini with another one. I mean, this is the thing. These are players that they know the league, they know the systems, they've worked with the backroom staff, Aaron Fox and everything like that. And the thing is, they've got a bond. They're a band of brothers. When you think about everything they went through last season, the highs and the lows, the successes that they had, for them to come back and have each other's back, I mean, and that doesn't even mean for the players that are actually there this season and then last season, because if you look, obviously, the injury, obviously, just wanted to go out and say, fingers crossed, it's not too bad as it looked on the ice at the time and full recovery and everything like that. But Kevin Tansey literally didn't leave his side. The team were just straight over there while the stretcher was coming and everyone was looking after him from both sides to just give him that support while they were getting him off the ice. You could just see the players pull together and just be there for them. And, that's the thing, is that for something that happened that, obviously I don't really want to go into, you know what I'm talking about. At the end of the day, I'm not going to mention it. I'm not going to mention anything that's happened in the news today. Is that as a group, as a companionship that those guys have on the ice and off the ice, it makes them play better. It just pulls the lever when they just need to push a little bit more. I mean, these were the guys that last year were the road blokes. They, the victories, they didn't lose back to back, really. They won everything that could be won. And the way things are going, yes, it's going to be a challenge with the CHL, the injuries and the people coming back and the way that they're going to position it. But they're one team that obviously, so far, I've seen 2 of their games. Really impressed with them so far. But it's pre-season. As we're going to go through this, I'm just going to say it's pre-season. I'm not going to do any predictions. I know people do it on Twitter and we'll put, laughing, joking, LOL and whatever and stuff like that for whoever they pick as the bottom 2 doesn't get into the playoff quarterfinals. But, spoiler alert, you probably can show away now, is I'm not going to give you a prediction of the top 10 because the way that these teams are, there's a few surprises that are going to be in there this year, I think. But I have an idea of the top 3, the middle, the chasers, and the people that might struggle. But I'm not going to do it after 2 or 3 games. So, yeah, I mean, if we go back and really look at that game with the Steelers, 7-2, 5-2. Big amount of goals, big week for them. They've got to go abroad, 2 away games, CHL. Different kettle of fish, really, if you look at it from what they've been playing in pre-season. No disrespect to the teams like Panthers and Cardiff that they've been playing. Greatest thing that I think obviously Steelers could have done at the weekend was both games that they played CHL rules. Won't lie, took me a while to grasp it, to see exactly what was happening and what was going on. But it was fun. The way that they do it in CHL, I mean, obviously I've not had much experience in the CHL, watching games and stuff like that. You probably can add a little joke in there why I've not been able to see them. But, if you think about it, it's a reward for what they've done and the success that they've actually had. So credit to them. It'll be interesting to watch those games. We'll be there for the 3 home games CHL in the coming weeks. And it'll be interesting to see those type of games and how they get on. Obviously, the chat is open. If you've got any questions or anything like that, if you want to add, Karina's added a question, which I've kind of covered already. I think she just want to keep me on here so she can read a book for longer. So That's absolutely fine. But yeah, I mean, Devils really impressed with them. You know, a couple of players. Hunter was great as well for them. McDonald was actually really, really good. You know, good performance from him as well. And McWilliam, obviously disappointing not to see Riley Brandt because obviously he's one player that, you know, you can kind of rely on to stir the potters a little bit. But, you know, he's a really good player. I think a lot of players like that are missed and are enjoyable to have in your team. And then that's the thing, really, with it. You kind of do look at them going forward to think, how are they actually going to do it this year? But you can't really answer that question because they've got 7 players missing. Because when they're there and you can do it like that, you think about it and you just go, well, this team that you've seen, they've had great performances, you know, playing against the Eagles, playing against GB in Cardiff. But this is a team that you haven't really seen the best of. And I mean, not in a negative way. It's just that, you know, having the 2 ways and something like that and having your coach in 2 worlds, it'd be interesting to see what this Devil team lines up as. I mean, there's a lot of potential there. They bought very, very well the players that they brought in with the experience and stuff like that. And that's the thing. You can look at elite prospects and you can look at YouTube and you can see all these videos that these guys have. And you go through it and then you just think they could be a top team to be it. So looking at it as well. So next question from Lee, rule differences. I mean, we didn't really get to see that many of them, really. I think that obviously the biggest one is the continuation during the power play, which was obviously quite interesting because you kind of expect to know, you know, goals gone in, stuff like that. And you just expect them to come back. And then it's obviously double jeopardy. Just keep going until the time's elapsed, which was really interesting. But when you're playing teams in the CHL, they don't make those mistakes. They will punish you. So the fact that teams can obviously just utilise it, if you get a bad call or anything like that, not that I'm saying the officials would give a bad call in any circumstances, of course not, but you're kind of in that position where you're like, well, you know, it'll punish you. And that's the thing is that you can easily be out of the game pretty early on. But as we saw with the Giants last year, when they were the first ones to play in the new system and bits and pieces like that, they did really, really well. They almost did the Nottingham Panthers and got through to the next stages, but still waiting on the team to obviously eclipse Panthers' results in the CHL. And again, another question from Karina. So what's my thoughts of Rock being pulled back as injury cover? I mean, that's the thing. We saw, you know, thank you very much for your services and everything like that, beginning the back part of the season. You know, don't know if that was obviously the conversation that we'd had at the end of the season with Danny and Omar to say, you know, thank you very much. We're going to go a different path. They've signed 2 new netminders. Obviously, we saw on social media how they were in a position of, well, trying to recruit for a netminder, everyone shouting constantly, when are you going to sign netminder and everything, bits and pieces like that. And they did, you know, they brought 2 netminders in. They got Luca as well from Nottingham Lions, who, you know, has grown leaps and bounds. The experience he must be gathering from the last couple of seasons, playing in and around to take it to Lions. And obviously, Nottingham Lions won 6-1 yesterday. So, you know, congratulations to them. First game of the season. Pretty sure they'll just won the season 10, top of the league. Perfect. But yeah, injury. You know, unfortunately, these things happen in circumstances like that in sport with training bits and pieces like that. And obviously, I know it wasn't on the ice. They said it was a home-based incident. I don't know exactly how that entails, but they said that he should be coming back. But the rapport, the relationship that Rock has with the fans, you know, again, we touched on it with Sheffield, but Rock was there, pretty much played the back end of the last season as somebody who was just constantly playing, best can when they tried to do their playoff push to get into the top 8 places and played really well. You know, he got a really good goodbye. He's got a great relationship, and the fact he's come back to help and support them just for a couple of months might lead on to something more. You never know. I mean, it's you know, it's fantastic for him. I know I watched him when he played for Steelers and called him a transformer because of how tall he is and how he is in the net, and he just the saves he can make and bits and pieces and the movement he can have for someone that tall. And as a person who's not very tall, to see that kind of maneuverability that he can have as an netminder is really, really good. It's a chance, get some training in. They get 1A, 2A again, get competition in places. But I think it's good that he's come back a couple of months, see where that goes. But it just shows the relationship he has with the fans. Because, I mean, he could have said no. I've done my time. I don't want to come back. But the fact, he's playing rock, paper, scissors with Danny. He's getting a hero's ovation in Nottingham for when he came back at the weekend is, something that he probably cherishes. And if he's got a couple months helping the team, I think there's no problems with him doing it. And wish him the best successes, and it obviously alleviates the pressure on Bernard in the Panthers' net, because pretty much before that, he had 4 goals against him against Storm, 5 goals against him against Steelers, and not a chance to get a respite or anything like that. So the fact they now have got an opportunity to pull on both netminders over a weekend, because Panthers have won a trophy, first trophy of the season, and the GM trophy. They can get the double. They've got the Aladdin Cup to come. So obviously we'll preview that, where they're playing the Devils. So you never know. They might win 2 trophies before the season's even started. And then obviously all those people on social media, the coaches that are on, that have critiqued the team, the tactics, the roster and everything like that, can go back and say, well, they've spoken absolute twaddle for a couple of weeks because Panthers have 2 trophies. Obviously, I'm saying this completely in tongue-in-cheek. I know that obviously in the grand scheme of things, the league, the Challenge Cup and the playoffs are the ones to win. But if there's a trophy, play for it. And obviously, we're not going to cheapen the value of said trophy, because it's something obviously you're playing for, and it gives us a little bit of an edge. Obviously, with Gary, the way he was for the Panthers and the history that they've got with him, the fact they were able to win it. I mean, I don't know what would have happened if obviously the other team won it. Would they have said, can we keep the trophy, or would it be a continuous thing? Because going and looking at it, the fact that some teams have played opposition that are from around the world, I think a lot of people have actually cherished it. I mean, Belfast have, Storm have, Dundee, Fife, Guildford, their fans must have loved it, obviously, having those over at the weekend. And it's a change, something that you can't do every time. Motivation of playing a team that's from abroad and getting absolutely stonked and beaten by them is not good for morale. Of course it isn't. But if they've got an opportunity to do that and then play someone different, because pre-season is getting the tactics, it's getting the ice time. It's time to get on your legs more than anything, just to obviously get those laps around the ice, get your shooting, get your passing, get everything that you've worked on for a training camp for the last couple of weeks, and just bed it in before it comes the real time when the 2 points are there. Because once the season starts, if people start to not be in a position where they can see winning after a couple of weeks, it does turn things into a little bit of a sour note, and then you get the lose or the booze coming through, and people going on social media and saying, get rid of this person, get rid of the coach and stuff like that. And it's just pre-season. At the end of the day, nothing's going to go through at this moment in time of any issues with any cause for concerns of any teams. And then obviously that goes into Mint Biscuit 1. So who will be your biggest surprise this season, whether better than expected or worse than expected? I mean, looking at the fixtures this weekend and the rosters and everything like that, I would say the team that I think is going to surprise a lot of people this year is Fife. I think Fife, the way that they've recruited, have been really clever, really savvy. Obviously, performances, the way that weekend has gone, I'm not going to take too much out of it, but, Tom Coolan is someone, I was very lucky to speak to a couple of weeks ago, and his knowledge and his demeanor, and just, to be fair, it was a long interview, but I could have happily spent hours talking to him about hockey. And that's probably the reason I think that the team will do better than expected, because I think a lot of people are going to take him on board, listen to his ways of playing and his ideology, and actually be a person who thinks, you want to play for him. You want to put your body on the line for him and play the exactly way he wants to play. Because we've seen bits in it. I mean, Fife last year was the team that stopped the Steelers, with their away record, the road blokes. So, there was something in the tank there. Of course, they've lost some players that have gone on to pastures new. But he's recruited really well. I mean, Martin Latau, I mean, Shane Owen, plays from Kazakhstan, that won the Conti Cup against the Devils. I'm not going to try and pronounce them because that's not going to work. And that's the thing. Yeah, exactly. Looking at it, the Kazakh 3 could either flop or get them into the playoffs comfortable. We don't know. This is the thing with the entities of buying players. We've all been there. A team sign a player and you think he's going to be, you look at elite prospects, you look at YouTube, you hear what people say about him, people in the know, people who are kind of like, well, I'm going to tell you this player is going to be better than anything. This is going to be sliced bread. He's going to destroy the league. He's going to be top scorer. He's going to be assist. This netminder is going to give shutout after shutout. No one's going to get past him. This guy's a fighter. This guy is this. And then they're on a plane by November and you never hear from him again. But then there's other players who you think, well, they're not going to be anything. I mean, there's probably players that guys can think of that there's a couple of Norwich you could mention. Definitely. But yeah, you think about it going forward is that there are a lot of players that, if you can find a player that can kind of come in and do a job on the second and third line, anything like that is kind of magic. I mean, if you obviously look at Esterberg, he's now at Giants. He's probably going to get a bigger, better deal. He's going to get plenty of ice time. He's playing with one of the biggest teams in the league. That's a fact. Is that you can put yourself in a shop window where you've got the opportunity and the ability to come in. And the players, people are getting the shirts and stuff like that. I mean, you can look at teams that will always have their players that will have, this book, tried and tested Brits. People that have been here for a while. You can put those names on there because you kind of know what they are, but there's a bit of a lottery of finding some players. I mean, from Panthers, I remember Hedberg scoring his first real goal against Belfast Giants at the weekend, double header against Belfast. And, the celebration, the pure emotion of having him score a goal. Because, a lot of people thought he'd come in, highly recommended by Adam Deutsch, and he would come through and score, goals for Panthers. But, that's there. Of course, the Rupert brothers as well. Plenty of stories that I've heard those in the last couple of years since I've been going to Steelers games. But, yeah, people like that is you get them. They're highly recommended. You'll speak to them. Are they nice guys? Are they great off the ice and on the ice? Can they perform? And some things just don't click. It's not a fault of anyone out, really. Could be an injury. It could be, they've not had a great summer form. Sometimes the league, the way that the pronounce is, you can just be in a position where it doesn't quite click, but then you can sign someone that you don't think is going to be very, very good, and then he becomes the messiah, and then you never want them to leave. And literally you just want to say stay forever. And we've seen a couple of players like that in the last couple of years. And it's always great to see that they have the opportunity for people to do that. So let's go through the next thing that people wanted to ask me was about Team GB. So I got a couple of questions with that. St. Pierre, another as well. There's a long list. Throw your names in the chat. If you guys can see players that you want to think, let's see how many players we can remember that were either too good for this league or that you thought were going to be too good for the league and didn't. And then other people that obviously shocked and surprised you. Fling them in. So Team GB, they obviously gave a valiant effort in the 3 games they had in Aalborg in Denmark. A lot of people were surprised with some of the choices that were made for the roster that went over, players that were missing, players that were picked. And you've got to look at the circumstances with it there, being in a position that they are. I mean, everyone has this expectation to GB do well. I mean, I went to Finland after COVID, didn't see them win. Saw them got a point when Tampere. So really good tournament, really good experience. First time I've been abroad in years, first time on my own. Hockey community, Absolutely. Everyone who goes out for GB, how kind and friendly they were. Perfect. Nottingham, very, very lucky seeing them all in Nottingham. Obviously, the circumstances of who was in the roster, who isn't there anymore. But to see them win on home ice in Nottingham was actually a real big pleasure to see that, the performances that they had and, going against Italy and coming out on top and everything, the stakes that happened during those games were actually really, really good. Yeah, I mean, obviously the World Championships that we just had in the summer, really long season for the teams, for a lot of the players that came through, really, really long, played there. They got the win at the end. You look at it going through. Is the managing expectations really is everyone wants GB to do well. The future is bright. The future with obviously the young Brits that are making a name for themselves in the Elite League and the National League is I can see in the next couple of years is I think about it in such a way that there's a lot of players that are on the edge of. I mean, I'm 37, so I can say it is that I feel hurting at 37. So there's probably guys that want to go out on a high. They want to go through on a tournament, and it's at home away, or they're making decisions when they want to stop. And it's going to be a shame because there's a lot of players there that you don't really want to see them hanging up and not play for GB anymore. But from a future point of view, is people have to remember, I think, in the next couple of years, we're going to start seeing people integrate into that team, and they're going to be a sharp upturn with the experience that the team has. Is it's going to click and performances? I'm not going to say, oh, they're going to beat Canada, they're going to beat the USA. I'm not insane. I'm just saying that obviously it's going to be a little bit more competitive. I think the performances are going to start reaching it, and then momentum's going to hit that they're going to start having those moments again. Because I mean, how often do we love seeing the Murph screaming when GB go through or GB get the win? Is we want those moments again. We want to see the fans and the players and everyone just be joyous in harmony, and GB have the potential to do that. There's a lot of teams that they've got to face that in the higher echelons that have teams that are playing in the world's biggest stages and biggest arenas, but without not on merit, but because of our hard work and determination, at some point we can be in a position that we can actually say, we're giving these teams a run for the money. If we're doing that compared to a lot of people there, it's going to start clicking. All it takes is one or two good results, a momentum shift swings, and people actually will see and take the team more seriously than they do and actually play them. Obviously, they played really well against Japan. Fortunately, didn't get to see the game live because of the circumstances that happened. But obviously, saw the goals and everything like that. So they played really, really well against Japan. Saw them against Norway and Denmark. Little bits of moments there, taking the penalty at the wrong time, bits and pieces like that, and teams will punish you. Because when you're doing stuff like that, don't give them an inch or they'll take a mile. So let's have a look. Question-wise, what do you think her will be like? Obviously scored early, but a few years on, quality of players have clearly improved. Do you think he'll stay the hero of the Panthers? I mean, looking at it, so far, captain coming back. I remember the Sam Herr of old, 2019, where obviously he didn't score straight away, but then he kind of pretty much came into his own. He had people like Brett Bulmer, Matthew Toussignon, Georgie, Adam Bush. You roll back that 2019 team that Tim Wallace created, and it just clicked. There was probably a situation there that they didn't win the Challenge Cup. Steelers won that. League was obviously going to be wrapped up, obviously before the situation with COVID. Playoffs, could have been any of the couple of teams there. Coventry were on a good run of form. Steelers were as well. Panthers, you just never know. But he's been in Germany for a good couple of years, come back, and he's got years of experience that he's got there. I mean, the league has changed. The teams have changed. They've gone big and they've gone hard, all teams pretty much this season. Will he score to get to reach those heights again? We shall see. I mean, if I'm honest, looking at it, last couple of games he's had, he's kind of been there. But the problem is that I think a lot of teams will kind of just focus heavy on him and try and push that one. But then that's the thing. If you pick a team where you only have one or two players, you kind of come unstuck because you're in a position where if you don't let them score, then games, minutes, and everything like that pushes them further down the line, trying to get something to click, moving them around to different people. If obviously they can play left, right wing, or centre, you kind of pushing them around to just do it, and then the form goes out the window because they're getting pushed further down the line. Their ice time's getting further away than what they would like, and then pressure sets in, because that's the thing is that when you're scoring and when you're high as anything that you possibly can, you're kind of stuck. But when you score and everything, you're the hero. Everyone wants to buy you a drink. Everyone wants to put you through as the hero, like obviously you've said with relation to the Panthers. But it's early yet. I mean, I could easily say he could end up one of the top scorers this year. I could easily say that he might not hit the numbers, but he's going to give captain performances with assists. Have we seen anything from him yet that's obviously leaps and bounds that's going to say he's going to be top dog this year? Not yet. Jury's out. Ask me next week. If we get to episode 2, we should have had a couple more games. If I'm not cancelled or banned, I'll let you know what we'll do a her watch. Graham, I'm good. Hope you're well. Obviously, big fan of your work and everything. Obviously, with your producing and everything like that. Good to see you. Good to hear from you. So GB is such a tough one because you want the best players, but you need the core youth coming through. What to say to the older guys? You won't pick you because you're anti. So that's the thing, is that you go from the tried and tested. Is that these guys are there on merit. They've done you a job. You could look at the team of the old guard and say, well, you've done right by me when I needed you the most. Might not have won anything with relation to that, but this performance is there that some people, you look at it, they're on merit because of the performance that they've had in the league. Some of the younger players that are coming through, some are playing in the Elite League, some that I really recommend and really think are really good in the National League as well, playing National Hockey League. If you guys have a look, get a chance to watch a game, there are some guys in there that, I get the ice time and stuff like that, and the situations of being at a team like Leeds or whoever, or anything like that, or MK or Solway or Steel Dogs now, of course, is where you're getting that ice time and you're playing, you're not being messed around. I completely get that. Is the thing really is, are people going to put them in a position to say, well, you play there, I can pick someone who's had this many games in the Elite League that's got this experience with these kind of players and stuff like that. It's a healthy balance. I'd like to see a bit of both. I think the greatest thing that they did, obviously, with the warm-up games and stuff like that, is they had a little bit of a mini squad that could say, train with the guys, integrate them and stuff like that, and get the communication lines between it. Because that's the thing, is, has the GB team changed much in the last couple of tournament announcements, really, of the bodies that have been chosen? Yes, there's a couple of people that dropped out. There's probably names easy enough. You could throw some names on here right now and say this person should play, this person shouldn't play, and people are knocking on the door. But when you've got it, you've kind of got your systems, you know what works, and you think about it, they haven't really got that much time to integrate with it, with the games there. I mean, they played the World Championships, they had a base in Cardiff, they had a couple of games here or there, and then they pretty much went to Denmark. We'll see them again soon and everything like that, but there's so much that might happen in the next couple of weeks that would be in a position where you're like, okay, this guy's been setting the world on fire for the last 3-4 months. Is he going to be in the next GB squad? Or are they going to say, well, this person I have had in the last 3 squads hasn't scored as much, but I know what he can deliver on this stage. Would I have that person instead? Luckily I don't get to pick the team. That's all I'm saying. Obviously I wouldn't be in a position where you could be like, well, I would pick him and I wouldn't pick him. What's the reasons why? Everyone's going to be unhappy with one way or another, the way the team's going to go. But at least we're putting ourselves in these positions really to play these games and actually have people in the pipeline that we could in the next couple of years to have it. At least there's not that stagnation or literally like, where's the next so-and-so going to come from? Where's the next Ben Bounds? When's the next Robert Dowd? Where's the next Liam Kirk? There's that kind of question that's going forward down the line, but we shall see going forward. So next question as well that someone gave me was the two-way situation, which I obviously wanted to think through, is they announced it in the last couple of weeks, well, basically a week ago, that all teams, so obviously the key focus there is all teams had agreed upon the two-way system. Is you're in a situation with that is that all teams knew, fans didn't know, everyone had that question going forward, that you'd be in a position where you look at it and you think, this is the size of the roster, these are the imports that we can bring in, any injuries or anything like that, we've got these 20 games that we can incorporate these people and build relationships. I mean, obviously I get Steelers and Steel Dogs, Tony Smith. Tony Smith isn't the chairman of the league anymore. So that's kind of one thing that's by the by, is that teams have had the opportunity, Panthers, great with the relationship that they built, getting someone from Leeds. Ollie, of course, getting from Leeds, and then MK Peterborough and, places like that. Cardiff doing it as well. You are in a position that you can kind of bring these players in, integrate them on that fourth line. I mean, Zane McKenzie for Panthers didn't really get the opportunity to get that time on the ice, but now he's at Coventry, opportunity there. He's going to shine, bits and pieces going forward with that, which is actually going to be really, really good to see how he develops as well. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, now everyone's got the opportunity to bring these players in and know that it's kind of on the table. I'm not against it at all. Actually, the thing is that, if everyone said it's not a development league, so therefore, people won't come, ticket sales will go down if everyone thinks it's just a load of Brits. We want to see the imports. We want to see fights. We want to see goals. They don't want to see that. That's the thing, is they're kind of doing the best of both worlds right now. And I think obviously that's really, really good. Opportunity to do that. Is they're doing something? If I'm honest, if they've got the opportunity to do something and move it around, where they can start getting people the opportunity and the chances to play, I'm all for it. Because, there's going to be an opportunity. If there was anything that wasn't there, that there would be a position where no one would actually do it in such a way that they wouldn't play these players. They would just be there as a token gesture of having someone on board that kind of just comes over, plays the predominant games where they need to. Obviously, 2 ways, 3 ways. I mean, I've seen so many ways that teams have been developing players this time, that if someone's gone from one team to another team and then they can get called upon, which is actually really, really, they'll get ice time at the end of the day. Fascinating that they've obviously done it in such a way now, but to do it that way and have ice time and have these 20 games where they can obviously feast or famine. Because, I mean, if you look at Samuel, I say Tremblay, but or Tresemme, some people have said already because of the long hair. But yeah, there we go. So that kind of actually works in. Tremblay, Uric, IBK and Cooper have all impressed. That's the thing, is if they get the games and they've got the opportunity now to come in, is you probably look at those lists of names that they probably wouldn't come in, but now they've got the opportunity. They could all pretty much play, the Challenge Cup. They could play in the league, that fourth line. If any injuries or anything like that, these are coming in. It's not a token gesture. They can actually come in. They've impressed. They've played. And if I'm honest, you could actually look at the games. Yes, they're preseason. Yes, I've said that it doesn't matter the results or anything like that, but they've not shirked away from that responsibility of coming in, and they've not made mistakes. They've kind of fitted in seamlessly. But then that's the question really, is more of having those players in and around the building. Yes, they've got the luxury of utilities there. Sheffield's across the road pretty much. I mean, there was a circus there the other week, so take that from what you will. So that kind of pops it in the way. But they've got the chance to come in and play really, really well and develop. Same, probably not going to go into the Fife situation with Brits. Dundee, opportunities there with Clan up there as well. Edinburgh Capitals, really great to see. Rockets are back, Dundee Rockets as well. Solway have got some really good young Brits that are there now. opportunity for them to strike out on their own, to go two ways or anything like that. But teams, Peterborough, MK, everyone's going through in a position that you will be looking at Brits, because there's going to be a position. I mean, I think a lot of people were asking, where are you going to get your good Brits at? All the good Brits are taken. How are you going to find a replacement and stuff like that? They're all very cherry picking. You've got your Brits, keep them there. You want to keep that core. But now they've got the two-way situation where they can actually start having people integrate them into the squads and then actually have a long-term plan. Because I think that's obviously one thing that a lot of people kind of go from season to season is you'd be in a position, you'd be such a way that you'd be like, well, I'm going to sign this player. We've seen it. I am a big advocate of keeping a coach longer than 1 year or half a season or anything like that. I mean, you look at Aaron Fox and you look at Keith with relation to how many years they've been in the respective organisations and what they've won, Grand Slam to Grand Slam, pretty much, is that they're building a culture within the hockey organisation. It's great, you bring this person in, new ideas, particular players. Thank you very much. Come and go, boom, 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 and then you get rid of them, or they get a new job, or passed as new, and then you've got to buy a whole new players, no new systems, and then you're just constantly playing catch up or anything like that. Because then you're losing the bodies that you would have had because they've made moves elsewhere because of the insecurity of who's actually going to be in the building and what do they want to play? Is it going to be a goon squad? Is it going to be technical? Is it going to be fast? Is it going to be ground and pound? All stuff like that is that you don't know. But having now this idea that you can build relationships with the best of the Brits and have these players that are there as a two-way and actually incorporate it into the terminology. They might not play all those games. Of course they won't. But there might be an opportunity where they play a part in that game and it can make or break a particular team season in their playoff campaign or Challenge Cup. Of course. So let's run through the questions that are still there. Yeah, so Green is actually agreeing with me, so that's a rarity. We'll take that. So Sims then booked a table for 32 people, play staff, when they go to Switzerland and Sweden. So I'm guessing, I mean, if they're going to be taking a couple, just in case there's any issues with what they want to do going forward, it makes sense is that, rather than having someone on call and just trying to rush them over and get them a flight over, have them in the building. Because that's the thing is, even if they're not even in the match day squad, if they're in and around it and, touch and go, depending on obviously the injuries and the situations of any knocks that happen in training, anything like that, the experience for these young guys to just go to these CHO arenas, just breathe it all in, see the media, the atmosphere, the fan bases, just to be in that building for a game, hearing how loud it is, because, European fans bring the noise and are very, very much hardcore with relation to they are, and the fact that it's going to be in Switzerland and Sweden and seeing how they're going to be. Even at a young age, if a couple of them go, they're going to be in a position where they're just going to be like, you know what? I like this. I want to do this again. And I would, do it, bring them, everything like that. If they don't play, if there's like 20, over two games, 20 minutes here or there, 10 to 20 minutes or whatever, just even sitting in the penalty box, if taking a penalty, too many men, just throw them on there and just stuff like that. It's going to give them the emphasis to say, actually, the next couple of years, I want to do this. I just want to be in the CHL all the time. And these European nights, I want them, give them to me every single time. And that's what I think a lot of teams strive for, really. I mean, if you look at it, Devils, Conte, Steelers this year, last year, Giants, going in CHL, they've only, I know a lot of people have been kind of, they lose to the top teams in Champions Hockey League, but I think anyone would be happy to take their place. Any of the other 9 teams that don't take it and don't get into that position or who aren't anywhere near it. Could you imagine if they had a European night? I mean, Clan, they were over in Germany for the weekend, the great atmosphere and the great performance, and Clan fans drinking and being merry and celebrating. I'm sure they would like nights like that again. It'd be massive for them. Let's have a look at the questions there. Yeah, so Steel Dogs are on still pre-season, so it makes sense to take some. Absolutely right. You know, it's perfect. Get an opportunity. You know, Steel Dogs. That's the thing right now. Is it's of course to the benefit of Steelers, but Steel Dogs the last couple of seasons are probably wanting to build a name on themselves, just not to be held up by the Steelers. They want to make a name for themselves in their own right, and actually be the team that people can take seriously. Because if you do that, and you kind of put yourself in a position that you are doing that, because there's going to be a lot of teams that are just going to be right there that just want to take full advantage. So as we are getting to quarter two, is I'm going to do the quick flash fixtures from the last weekend and just give you a couple of minutes on each of the games, really, because good to answer the questions and stuff like that, but it's always good to just go through every single game very, very quickly to see what happened this previous weekend until we actually work out the format for episode 2 and start getting some questions throughout the week. So obviously Dundee played the Patriots. Patriots, really great team that they played in the last couple of weeks. They played really well. La France, another goal for him as well, because you are in a position that Patriots have done really, really well. Stars, really great performance. Seeing little bits and pieces of them there. They're going to be a really good team this year, I think, with the Stars, with what they're doing and the signings they've actually got now, bringing it through. Again, preseason isn't a great point to, get the minutes in the legs and bits and pieces like that, which is absolutely fine. But, Dundee are going to be in a really good place. Losing 4-1 at home, no one's going to really take away from that. And who's going to remember that? If they're playing in the quarterfinals of the playoffs and they're in a decent place at the Challenge Cup, the way the format is and bits and pieces, you're going to kind of be, yeah, well, we lost Patriots in pre-season. Who's going to stop that? Obviously, the other news this week is Gary Hayden is back at Clan. So, obviously, Gary Hayden doesn't watch YouTube. YouTube watches Gary Hayden. Sorry, everyone else does one, so it's only fair that I can do one. It's probably not the best that you're going to see on social media, won't lie. But it's good that he's back. The opportunity that's coming there. Will he fit in sexy Nielsen hockey? Who knows? Obviously, I don't really put the stats on bits and pieces like that, but, he got 31 goals, 34 assists last season, minus 26 for the Clan for his first season. But if there's anyone that you do want to take under his wing and develop him, is Corey Nielsen. It'd be a great opportunity to see what he brings to the table, and he's back. So the happy bus is back with Clan, and the Clan fans are happy, which is always a good thing because normally it's a fan base meltdown. But Belfast, really good weekend. This is a Giants team that have been hurting. They didn't like the fact that they were in a position that they lost at the final. The performances in the Challenge Cup and the league, wildly inconsistent. They've decided, obviously, to bring, ask anyone if you want a trophy at Belfast. Let's talk and bring him back. Conway's back, JJ's back. But all joking aside, if you look at it, 8-2 at the weekend as well. Performances wise, goals coming through the new guys, the old guys. Cooper being brilliant as always. Keith obviously was in Denmark, so opportunity there with them, but he's it's one of those teams that you never write them off. I said I wasn't going to give predictions, but if that's a team that's playing as well they are in pre-season, I think they're going to be knocking on the door. And be honest, Devils versus Giants, Giants versus Steelers, they're going to be some tasty games. It's going to be in a position where got to get me a seat, and I'll probably be over in Belfast at some point, which will be good to be back and watching those guys play. I was saying they've got a new intro. I'm sure a lot of people see if they have TikTok. I'm still trying to learn TikTok because Jason the Puck should go on TikTok at some point once I've worked it out. But yeah, someone posted the intro for Giants, which has feeling good. Steelers might have feeling good this year. Giants might have feeling good, but no one uses Michael Bublé. The best feeling good is Michael Bublé, personally. But they use their versions, and obviously love a good intro. Obviously, we also love it when it takes 20 minutes instead of the usual 5, but that's a different conversation for a different day. Coventry, really good weekend. Doctor Russell Kelly, playing for them on Sunday. Um, really, really good to see him back on the ice, the celebrations and stuff like that to remember your past. Still got it as well. Obviously, of course, still lighting it up in the National League as well. But, day before they played the line in 10-2. One of those games, a lot of people have been very vocal in Blazers' thought process with relation to how they've recruited head coach Kevin Moore. I mean, how can you not love Kevin Moore, if I'm honest? They brought young players in and an opportunity to bring these players in. And, not taking away its preseason and everything like that, but they performed bloody well, if I'm honest. They've got a lot of goals in them from the 2 games that they've played. Some really good skill, some really good youngsters. Blaze are very good with the youth in the Brits in there as well, how they play them, make sure they go on a 2-way that will be beneficial for them, but they give them ice time. And it'd be interesting to see how Blaze get on this year. A lot of people had them in their top 10s, bottom 2 team to be scared, that might not make the playoffs because Danny Stewart's not there and it's chop and change to such a degree. I disagree. I think they'll actually be there or thereabouts in the mix for top 6. But I said I wouldn't make predictions, so let's keep that between you and me. But I think that'll be okay. As they go on Storm, they got Joe Morrow. A lot of people thought he wasn't going to come back. They've got Wenger. He is back as well for 4-1 win against Panthers in the circumstances. They've had a really good preseason. They've got Storm are always one of those teams that play really, really well and have a lot in the locker, home and away. The way they play, the way that they recruit and everything like that, they are on their given day, they can just bring a lot to the table with relation to how good they are. And, a lot of people last year were laughing, joking about them finishing as low as they were going to be, but they did really, really well. I think that will continue this year, not to the same level as it was, but I think that's going to be a culture shock going to Altrincham and playing for some of the teams that have come through. It's going to be fun. There's going to be some really, really interesting games there. And I think obviously a lot of high scoring as well. And obviously they've got a netminder as well. Young, Brett, Odell, who I think is obviously when he comes in as well, actually plays really, really well. Been very unlucky some of the games that he's played in with some of the goals that have gone in, but he actually comes in and does a job. Sometimes when you've got a break, you don't want to put him on there. He just sits on the bench entirely the entire time. And then you never see him play. Never gets any minutes, but obviously opportunities came with what happened with Storm yet, and he didn't look out of place whatsoever. So he'll be an interesting one to say. Storm, great. Try and get down to Storm as much like that. Stream not so much, but that's obviously reasons. There. But they're a really good team, really, really impressive team, and be interesting to see how they do. Clan as well, they were very lucky. Obviously people made light of the cheap stream with relation to how well that went and the cost implications. Really good couple of games that they played as well. I mean, I remember I looked at the score for Clan when they were playing, and I was just like, oh, they're losing 4-2, and then I saw the final score and it was like 5-6, and I was like, yeah, that's a Corey team. That's never back down. They never give up and anything like that. And that's something, Clan, everyone made lights of them being massive and fan base meltdowns. You're kind of in a position where you're like, well, I think Clan will do really, really well. They've got Cade in there. They've got some really good experienced bodies in there. Corey is there and who's not going to mess about. I mean, I don't know how we're going to say it, if it's the Premier Sports sponsored Glasgow Clan, but, they're doing inroads and stuff like that. Obviously, gone away from Asprey as well, but they're kind of in a position now where people made laughing jokes with them the first year, but they've kind of took that on board. They've took it on the chin and actually thought, we're going to do it this year. We're going to do something about it, and it'll be interesting to see what that actually is, what they do. Because they've recruited well, have you heard, of course, and bits and pieces like that is actually going to be a lot of fun to see how they come board and come across. Could be completely wrong. They could lose their first couple of games, then everyone goes on meltdown mode again. But that's the best thing about preseason is you take the positives and then you see what happens in a couple of episodes' time. And then I watch this back and then realise that I was completely wrong, and you'll all tell me about it and remind me. So that's absolutely fine. Fife, really good weekend for them as well. They were very, very good in their performances as well. Got a shutout on the bingo card. They saved the day. So thank you, Fife, for that. And he's recruited well. I said that very earlier on in the stream. Is that I think they're going to be a team that people are going to look at going forward as getting some points and being a tough place to go, and with the bus legs and everything like that, and the way that the fixtures are now with the new fixture system, I think they're going to be in a position where they can actually make some noise and take on some teams that they wouldn't before and people wouldn't expect them to be before. But we can only be in a position that we go through with that. So last one would be Guildford Flames as well. So we're looking at through them. Really good weekend as well for them. Brett Rulechka, have come back. They've recruited really, really well. Really, really good, exciting team. Flames, from a couple of years ago when it was all mind the gap, Guildford Flames is they probably expected, didn't get into the Conti Cup for the reasons that were only for them. That's absolutely fine. But, they've recruited well. Paul Dixon is a very, very good coach and gets a lot out of them. Winning 4-3, we'll actually get in the goals as well. Strang, there's a lot of names there that they've kind of brought in. That's been kind of an influx and a change within Guildford. And if I'm honest, they look like they're a really, really good side. It's only 2 games in. Of course, obviously, it kind of stuck up and glued. 5-1 as well. They're getting goals in. They've got Tedesco back from Giants. That's going to be a big one for him because, obviously, he's hitting. Lewis Hook as well with the big long-term contract that he's got. Big gap in Ben O'Connor going to Dundee as well. But they're not resting on their laurels. I think last year they were in a position where they could be struggling with relation to it. But now they're in a position that they've done it going forward and they've been quite clever. A little bit of breaking news while I'm on here now is that the Steelers have announced that you can watch the Champions Hockey with Every Play Live. So everyone's been asking the last couple of weeks, would it be on a stream? Would it be on Premier Sports? But the competition, so you can purchase a webcast, there is. So let's have a look at the prices. So Champions League Hockey, got to get my reading glasses on. So for all access on demand, it's $9.99 monthly. And then it's £45 all yearly for them. So that is there. There is a code as well that Steelers have posted. But yeah, so now it has been announced that it's not Premier Sports. It's not going to be a stream. It's going to be Everyday Live, which is a new one from me, which I've not heard of before. But obviously, Every Play Live is the new company that's obviously doing the CHL this year. And you can grab and watch a stream from there. So if you want to catch the Steelers, that'll be the way there. So obviously, we said we're going to try and do it to 8 o'clock, but I think there's one question that has been left in the chat that I've ignored the last couple of minutes. But who is your all-favourite hockey player and why is it Robert Dowd? I mean, have you seen the hair and beard? That answers your question. No, I mean, you've got to be honest, he's probably a talisman of the UK hockey, but from a personal level, when I was starting out, getting back on the horse of interviewing again, he was very kind to take some time out of his day and just spend some time talking the interview, just being completely understanding, apologetic when time constraints and stuff like that, and actually being courteous enough with his time. And, I've always respected that. I'm honest, a lot of people know how difficult it is to get the interviews from time to time, to speak to people, because the thing is that you've kind of got to slide in people's DMs and just go, hi, I'm Stephen from Chasing the Puck. Can I interview? It's like, who are you? What are you talking about? Leave me alone. But, the thing is, you ask them, they're courteous enough to take up the time. and get it. But the fact is that if you speak to them in the summer, their holiday, they've got to see their family, their friends, and everything like that. Kind of being in a position where you've got to take the time, because off season, they've got jobs, they've got homes to look after, they've got family, dogs, and bits and pieces. It's very difficult, and especially being an Englishman like I am, who can't queue properly, because I have to say after you constantly, and I never get served. It's just very much really weird to speak to someone and just go, "Hey, can I speak to you over the internet sometime?" Before the season, the season starts, they're training, they get a day off, they want to relax. Being in a position like that, you kind of like, well, it's hard. But the fact is, he is my favourite player because he was one after a lot of things happened personally to me. And he was kind enough to obviously just, let's talk, let's have a chat, and be in a position where we can, have a really great interview. Downside is that it got corrupted, so the video never got out there, but it was a written one. And it was really good. Hopefully one day I can actually get another interview with him, but there we go. So I'm going to answer the NHL player. So how often are we going to be doing these live chats? So the plan is to do it Monday night. I've had a look, Banners on the Wall, 3on3 podcast, and 4,000 and counting. They kind of have their set days. So I just thought Monday is a good day for me where I can do it. So that's the plan, is to do them every Monday night at 7 until obviously I get told to stop, or anything happens that way. Because I think we tried a trial episode, well, a pilot, we'll say, let's go American TV. And there was a lot of issues with the Wi-Fi and stuff like that. I finally got it fixed. I mean, hopefully no one said I've been lagging, or you can't hear me, or you can't see me. So I think I've got that fixed to a degree of doing a video on a Monday live with you guys, talk about the week's action, because it'll be a lot easier when it's just, questions in the week. Do that, and then obviously any information that happens game-wise or anything like that. In the week, there'll probably just be bits and pieces of videos, what I do, because obviously I've been doing a lot of the game vlogs at the moment, depending on team dependent, given the fact, obviously, them allowing us to record and whatnot and help and assist that way. But yeah, trying to get more interviews. So pretty much with the aim of the game, with work and other commitments, is to try and get something every couple of days on the YouTube channel. Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, kind of just, I can post one thing one day and then post 17, but that's why the bingo cards kind of changed to a thread now, because a lot of feedback that we got was it was just basically too much, because we were in such a big issue where it was hard to keep track of it, and everyone was just a little bit like, why is chasing the puck taken over? Why don't we just mute or block them? And I thought, it was a very fair feedback to do it, because, you're doing it. We did a 3-day one. We got so close, literally. All we needed was a team to retweet to get a full house. No team did, which, by the by, is kind of one of those things. I'm not bitter. I'm not angry, just disappointed, because we're in that kind of position. But what can you do? But yeah, we'll try and do everything in a couple of days, but it's kind of in flux. You're kind of doing this. We're doing this kind of me voluntary anyway, because I'm kind of in a position where I've got to pay the bills, got to pay for a wedding as well. But, editing, doing bits and pieces and videos and stuff like that. A lot of young writers that are coming through to us now as well, that have been messaging us. If you ever want to write for us, anyone, just drop me a message on social media. More than happy to help, and obviously give you any pointers, or if you want to write something over, email it over to us, absolutely fine. I'll send you the details if you just jump into if you send us a DM, absolutely fine. Because we just want to try and get written for every league, every team, every country. That'd be the dream, but obviously it's all voluntary and stuff like that. And I know people have a lot of time to do it. Of course, the other question is favourite National Hockey League player. So my friend Sarah, she was a Maple Leafs fan. And, I didn't really have a National Hockey League team, but she was a really big Matthews fan, the Tash, I think. But yeah, she kind of made me watch All or Nothing, and obviously made me watch Maple Leafs. So I kind of inherited the Maple Leafs from her. So he is my favourite player. Might be cliche and stuff like that, but obviously it's a lot of sentimental meaning for me every time I watch the Maple Leafs and see him play. So that's the only person I would say is my favourite player. Obviously, yeah, glad you enjoyed it. Obviously, that's absolutely fine. I know you're working, but please come and see me. I love speaking to people. It's absolutely brilliant. People know who I am and actually chat to me. And it's not security asking me to leave the building. So anyone who's not that, absolutely fine, come speak to me. CHL games are €450 for a single game stream. So, okay, I mean, that's perfect. That's the thing is, if, 2 games, so equivalent of anything like that. So if it's obviously €10 or €9 for 2 games, the ones that are coming up on the Thursday this week, and then that's there. Absolutely perfect. Looking at that going forward, these people can watch it, people can view it. It's not on anything that's a stream. Steelers don't have to bring their own in-house people over abroad, depending on what they're actually going to do. There's other people that are going to be doing it for them on the night when it's at the utilita. But it's not on-premise sports. So at least we know, we can get that understanding now of who's got it, who's responsible for it, and then people can watch it. So all being well, obviously went a little bit over on the hour. So for first episode, but I just want to say thank you everyone for joining in, the questions, anything like that. If you haven't already, if you can like and subscribe, it would mean a lot. Obviously, if you see it on the social medias, just obviously give us a follow, retweet or anything like that. Absolutely greatly appreciated. And all being well, see you all next Monday at 7, if not before. Have a good one. See you all later. Bye-bye.